I was not ready for this chapter of My Hero Academia, and I don't think anyone was prepared to witness what we got. And to think, this is the first chapter of 2021, and this is most likely Horikoshi letting us know that he's setting the tone for the manga this year of what it's going to be about. Either A, this is going to be the saddest it's going to get for this year, or this is going to be the start of, Horikoshi rolling us down a hill into a pit of sadness. Whatever it may be, I don't think anyone expected just the amount of loss that we got. I mean, we knew that there was going to be a lot of repercussions thanks to everything, but just to see the overall loss itself visually shown is something else. And so I guess let's just get right into the big topic of discussion, and that is Midnight. Midnight is iconic. She is a character that has been around since basically the beginning of the series. She has had a very huge role in the development of Momo and other characters. She's had great scenes, and she's even had a role to play in the spin-off series, My Hero Academia Vigilantes. And that's also a canon and very important series that dives into her backstory as well. And if you read the spin-off series, then this chapter is going to hit even harder, because there is a lot of characterization and development for Midnight you get within that, the backstory behind who she is, why she is like she is, and just seeing everything here, just seeing this chapter in her death, it's probably going to have a huge impact on the students, a part of Class A and B, because now they just witnessed something that I don't think any of them really ever expected. I mean, yes, they went into a school course, to actually be a hero. And even though it seems obvious you'd probably experience a loss on a battlefield or something, that seems apparent, obviously at the end of the day, they're kids, and they don't really fully think everything through. They don't actually truly understand that they are going to lose someone probably eventually in front of them, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it until it finally happens. And I think that Midnight's death is going to be a huge wake-up call to pretty much every single individual a part of the class, that, was connected to her in some shape or form. I mean, you got to think about it like this. I mean, it's not just the students, but think about the adults as well. Think about, Mike and his connection with her. Think about Aizawa, and think about All Might. There's constantly been scenes with these characters connected. All the teachers, intermingling with Midnight as well. And seeing this as well is going to have a huge impact on their psyche. We're obviously going to see All Might himself probably being very upset. I mean, he lost, Night Eye, he's probably about to lose Gran Torino, and then, now Midnight, and then, he thinks he might die. There's just so much that, it's going to weigh on All Might as well. So there's just so much to really take from Midnight's death. But one of the few characters that's probably going to have a major impact from Midnight's death is probably going to be Mina. Because when we go back a few chapters before we got this chapter, Mina did give us a death flag on Midnight, and Midnight's overall status has been up in the air since she kind of got flung into the forest, and you saw the villains kind of starting to surround her. We didn't really know where it was going to go, and to think that she did in fact end up getting killed is just ridiculous in of itself. But the thing is that Mina was in so much high spirits that Midnight would, come back, but obviously that is not the case. And then also the Momo scene, where Momo was given confidence one last time from Midnight. Midnight saying, "You can do this, you can lead, I always had faith in you, I know you can do this, you can lead this team, you can do a lot of things, great things," and basically gave her the ability, how to, put down Gigan, make him actually go to sleep. When you see all of this, it's just like Momo and Mina are going to have a huge weight on their shoulders thanks to just Midnight's death. And I feel like most likely, if I had to guess anything, that maybe Mina might keep her name as Pinky thanks to, Midnight, honoring Midnight in some shape or form. We will see. Getting a little bit further, though, let's talk about the other deaths. I mean, we have a variety of other characters. We have a list, and this is just a few characters. This isn't like everyone that has potentially died. There's probably countless, hundreds upon hundreds of people that basically are gone now from the series, and we may never even know their names. And I know many might be thinking, okay, it's fodder, I shouldn't really care about them, but that's not the point. What that shows is that so many people just lost their lives in a second, and they're gone. And, you know, that there is repercussions to this arc. There is a lot of weight and depth to this arc, and I appreciate that. I think many were, you know, really worried about that, and I personally was kind of worried, and now seeing the weight of that, I'm very pleased, even if we had to lose a lot of good characters. And I mean, another thing I need to mention too, which I neglected to talk about, is Native. Native actually died as well, and this is a very sad one. I know many of you might not actually know who Native is. You might have forgotten about him because he hasn't really been relevant, basically, but it really does hold a lot of weight when you think about the ongoing circumstances of the story. Native was a hero that was introduced in the whole Stain arc, where he was pinned up against the wall in the alleyway, and you saw Ida come in and try to save him, and then Stain's like, oh, why are you trying to kill me? You should save him before you try to kill me. And, you know, it led to Ida's character development. That was the hero there. That was Native. And he got saved thanks to the efforts of Ida, you know, Todoroki, and also Izuku. And he managed to survive past that whole ordeal for many, many months after. And in this arc, he has effectively died. He is now deceased. And that's really sad because, like, this man survived the whole circumstance with the Stain arc just to turn around and die trying to save people. It kind of shows that Stain's ideology is very flawed. I mean, we already knew that. We already knew that. That's nothing new whatsoever to the premise of the story, but it's still another way to nail in more into the coffin of Stain's ideology that it was very flawed and very wrong. I mean, Native literally risked his life and died on the front lines, the very thing that Stain wants heroes to do. So that's a big deal right there. It's really just, you know, sad to see a character like that is very minor just die, and, you know, I wonder if we're going to get a little bit of a shout-out / callback to that from Stain. Like, you know, we have a prison arc break coming. I mean, let's be honest here, it's about to happen. So, Stain might actually mention some of the heroes that fell, and even mention Native, which would be very interesting if that does happen. I would love to see that if Horikoshi goes down that path. But okay, let's talk about more of the characters that are potentially about to die. Example, Gran Torino. Gran Torino, he is a mystery. I mean, it's very clear by just the whole donut hole in him. He's dead. I mean, if Night Eye couldn't survive it, Gran Torino isn't going to survive it. It just, in the discussion. And Gran Torino is a lot older. He is a lot older, and I highly doubt he'll be able to come to a full recovery after a wound such as that. So, Gran Torino, he's effectively going to die. The question is how is his death gonna be handled? Obviously, some might be quick to assume that it might be handled like how Night Eye's death was. You know, you're gonna have a bunch of people surrounding Gran Torino, and then they're all gonna kind of slightly say their goodbyes in their own way, be very upset that they can't do anything about it, and Gran Torino will pass away. But personally, I don't think that's actually going to be the case with Gran Torino. I think he is going to die, but he's going to pass away before he either gets to the hospital or pass away when no one to really even know he's there, because there's just so much going on. Because obviously the hospitals are going to be over capacity. There's too many people that are going to be needing help from each individual city thanks to the whole aftermath of this arc. So when you just look at everything, Gran Torino is probably not going to really be mentioned much. There's just going to be so much chaos, and he's going to just silently pass away by himself, and no one's really going to really know about it until after it's actually done and they start looking for him. I feel like Izuku's not going to be able to have any final words with him. All Might's not going to be able to have any final words with him. And it's going to be very hard to Izuku if that actually does in fact happen. But it would definitely lead to a lot of character development. You know, just the sense of loss, and there was just nothing he can do. And he couldn't even be there to see him in his final moments. But another character that needs to be mentioned is Mount Lady. We all know Mount Lady was quite the fighter in this arc. She literally stood up against Gigan and was holding him back before, you know, he passed out. He was fighting Mount Lady, and Mount Lady really showed her strength. She really stepped up to the plate to do the best she could, and she did a great job. She did, in the end, fall down, but she did sustain a lot of damage, more damage than we can even realize, and I am very curious about how injured, you know, Mount Lady is. I don't think she is going to die. I do, however, think, you know, what has happened to her and how she got very injured, and then the whole Midnight situation, it's probably going to lead to Mount Lady going through a lot of character development. I mean, Mount Lady and Midnight were kind of like rivals in their own way as heroes, and on top of that, you know, Mount Lady's always not taking it too seriously, and I think just after everything, she's really going to have to fit into the top 10 spot heroes and really try to stand out amongst the crowd and give a lot of people safety, make them feel very safe. I'm very interested. I think, Mount Lady's going to go through a lot of development, but then there's other characters. We have Cementos. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. We see that he was in a fight with Getten, and, we see that he was captured, but you see Cementos, he's on the ground impelled by an icicle, and that's kind of concerning. He's not necessarily dead, but it's another major injury, so we don't even know if he's going to be able to survive. You also have other characters that are almost dead, like for instance, you have Edgeshot. Yes, he managed to beat Redestro, which is ridiculous in of itself, and like that kind of warrants its own topic of discussion and video, just to actually think that Redestro was bested by Edgeshot. I didn't think Edgeshot was on that whole level of being able to beat Redestro, but to be fair though, Redestro's artificial legs were destroyed by Dark Shadow, so it's kind of unfair, honestly. But regardless of the point though, Edgeshot beat Redestro, and you see that his arm is really messed up. He's sweating, he's panting, so he really, stressed himself and pushed himself to the absolute limit. His hand looks really messed up. And then that's not even getting into the other characters that were confirmed to be alive, but then you see obvious signs of, potential wounds. Example, we see, Pixie Bob, she's alive and well, she's injured on the head. We don't know exactly the extent of her injuries on her body, but she is alive. However, there's another character that stands out, and that is 13, one of the teachers of the school, which is going to have a direct connection with Midnight and everything that happened. That's going to definitely hit 13 quite hard. But when you look at 13, you can see that the arm is visibly missing. The left arm visibly does not look like it's there, and I'm assuming most likely what happened is that 13, since 13 was just so close to the destruction of Shigaraki, that she probably had to literally black hole her entire arm off just to survive the disintegration of Shigaraki. It would make a lot of sense, and so I feel like 13 lost her arm, and then you have Mike, he is A-okay. I mean, you have a variety of characters that are shown to be okay, like Wash. I mean, look, memes aside, I'm very curious on how he survived. Like, I'm gonna not even try to meme right now. Like, how did that man survive? I really want to know how Wash managed to go through that. He was literally right next to the destruction of the hospital, so I'm curious about that one. Horikoshi, I need deets on that. But, the point is, though, is a variety of characters were confirmed to be alive, characters confirmed to be dead, and a lot of characters just up in the air about what's really going to happen to them. It's quite the aftermath of a chapter. It's really like a whoa, like, it can't get much worse than this. But then, it does. We already know that the Endeavor stuff's gonna happen. The whole downfall of Endeavor, it's already begun, and at this point, there's really no fixing Endeavor's career. The question now is damage control. How much is Hawks gonna be pulled down alongside of Endeavor? That's another question. How much is, the family, the Todoroki family, gonna be pulled down thanks to everything surrounding Endeavor? But then, it's not just that as well. We also have the other events going on, especially with, for instance, the prison break. The prison break is... that's set up for the next arc, and it's literally just now gonna happen. Like, we're going right into it. We're going right into a prison break arc. We're not even having any time to breathe. There's not gonna be a week time skip, a few months time skip, a year time skip. We're just going straight into a prison arc, which is just absolutely ridiculous. There's like no time to breathe whatsoever with the pacing of what this story is doing right now, and the prison break is literally about to happen, which makes perfect sense from a story perspective and from a logical perspective, because, I mean, think about it. It's not just the villains that are incredibly injured, it's the heroes. I mean, we get full display of how injured the heroes are. Countless losses, cities destroyed, media's in chaos, hospitals are probably in chaos, nobody knows what to do, the top heroes are basically all down. Who's really going to be able to step in and stop a potential prison break? Really not. All the police officers are probably out on the field trying to just deal with everything, trying to keep everything under control. So when you just see everything, it's just like, yeah, it's ridiculous. So the prison break is about to happen, and we're going to see pretty much every villain that's probably getting locked up about to get out once again. Gigan's going to get out, we're going to have Redestro getting out, we're going to have Stain get out, which I'm excited for, All For One's going to get out. There's so much that's going to happen, so many things that honestly I'm not even able to think about, because there's just so much that will happen when the prison break does in fact go down. But another thing needs to be talked about, and that is the fact that Shigaraki's body is currently taken over by All For One. Okay, this is huge. This is a really big thing about this conclusion of this arc and what is about to happen going forward for the story. Because this is a very dangerous plot points to play with when it comes to any type of story. I've seen this in other manga over the years. This even kind of happened in Naruto with, Orochimaru and Sasuke, if you know. And it's a very concerning plot point when you have a villain trying to steal a body of another character. It kind of is like, okay, we've seen this, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it undermines a lot of development the other character has made, the journey they have made. And I know the whole plot point of the villains and stuff, especially what My Hero Academia has been trying to say, is that, everything is for all for one, and, you use the other person's achievements as a stepping stone to move yourself up. That's kind of what Shigaraki did with Stain, and seeing, All for One taking over Shigaraki's body is cool, but it's not something I think that needs to be permanent, because big detail is that we had an entire arc dedicated to Shigaraki coming to his own person, becoming his own person, development, attachment to him, and seeing how this potentially can be all overwritten by All for One is a little bit concerning. I don't think it's actually going to happen. I actually do think that Horikoshi is setting up for a situation that's kind of like, the Sith from Star Wars. I've talked about this in the past. Since Horikoshi loves Star Wars, it'd make a lot of sense if he used the evil side, the dark side, the Force type elements of Star Wars to kind of do with what Shigaraki and All for One's relationship is. They're kind of bound by this invisible connection, very similar to the Force, and on top of that, for Shigaraki to fully be disconnected from All for One, he needs to get rid of All for One. And I feel like when Shigaraki's body is taken over there, Shigaraki is going to have a struggle and potentially fight back and probably get rid of his mentor, his master, his father figure that is for All for One, and become his own man. That would definitely lead to even more development for Shigaraki, and I'm excited for that if that is indeed the case. Which, another thing, too, speaking of villains, Toga's up in the air as well. We don't really know what's going on with her. We know she's MIA, which is very interesting, because we know Toga would have quite a few things to say to Shigaraki and all the individuals a part of, the League of Villains, because, they're family to her. We know this, and seeing Shigaraki leave behind a bunch of people is probably going to be very upsetting to her. Like, why would her family leave her behind like that? What really happened? She's going to be incredibly worried. And I feel like, she is probably going to go for her own character arc very soon. Like, she's going through something. She's by herself to really process and think about everything that has happened to her recently and what she really wants to do and what she actually wants to be. There's going to be a lot of development for her, which kind of goes over into Ochako as well, getting to see her development and her standing out as a hero, going in and saving people, lifting up rubble to save them from the broken down buildings. There's just a lot of things that Ochako is doing throughout this chapter that really just goes to show how much she's developed too. Which, speaking of which, that gets into the next doom and gloom thing, which is seeing the heroes basically giving up. At least one of the heroes basically says, I can't take this, I need to find another job. And this makes perfect sense. It really does. Because, if you were face to face with literally carnage of just city after city after city after city destroyed, it's going to mess with you. It's going to mess with you. It will. And this is a big point that the overhaul arc was trying to do. Who is going to save the heroes? Who is really there to help out the heroes when they're in a time of need? And in this case, that's what's happening. These heroes are being just pressed down so hard, so much pressure put on them that they really can't take it. And many of them are probably going to quit after this. They're going to be like, this ain't safe no more. Being a hero isn't safe for this anymore. I, value my own life. I don't want to die anymore. And so you're going to have an oversaturated hero society basically dwindle to barely any heroes anymore. And so it's going to be a big deal too. So I'm excited. This final chapter, this I guess little calm down moment to see the aftermath before we get into the prison break arc is a great chapter. This is a heavy chapter, an emotional chapter, loss and consequences. There's so much to this chapter. I wonder where the story's going to go after this. I'm super excited. Anyways, guys, I love you. Be safe. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And with that, Chibi out.